We are the tribe from the north, we're brave and we're bold. Defeating our rivals never gets old. Making our way to the Big Sky Conference. Watch out, 'cause here comes the silver and gold. Whoa, whoa. This is Tubbs at the club for the Vandals of Idaho.
Welcome back, Tribe from the North Brave and Bold, to the official, unofficial podcast of your Idaho Vandals and your Vandal affiliate on the Big Sky Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chris Hammond. Joining me today, we have the Professor, Brian Martson, joining us from Office Hours. How the hell are you, Brian?
I'm doing better than the basketball team, man, so doing all right. We have – this is an exciting time right now, even though football season's over, so I'm doing pretty damn well.
Yeah, you're doing a lot better than the guy to the right of you for our viewers, at least the color of his shirt. Alex, the boatman.
Where am I pointing? There it is. Man, this is hard looking like the camera, trying to figure out where I'm at. There we go. Go Dogs, baby.
Hey,
Kalen DeBoer era.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm stealing.
No. What were you going to ask? I'm just.
You're 2 of 3 coaches down, right?
Yeah, 2 of 3. So Man United got their guy. Washington got their guy. And the team that fired their coach first also have their guy. So that's kind of interesting. But most importantly, I think it's time for everyone's favorite segment.
The Mountaineer Minute.
Guys.
We need sirens, confetti.
Bowl eligible West Virginia Mountaineers went on the road to Sleepy Lawrence.
Give it up for Neil Brown.
Hey, the fighting Coach Browns.
Is he available?
On the road. Well, he went on the road, Sleepy Lawrence on a Saturday 6 p.m. local kick on FS1. No one's watching because they're watching Bedlam. No one's there because it's after Thanksgiving. The Mountaineers still took care of business. Kansas is scrappy. Going to a bowl game. I mean,
hey, took care of give business against 3-time FCS title-winning coach Chris Kleiman.
No, Lance Leipold. That's Kansas. Chris Kleiman's with Kansas State.
I think you were in Manhattan.
No, Lawrence.
Oh, I thought you said Manhattan. Sorry.
We lost in Manhattan, unfortunately, but 6-6.
I watched the Mountaineers.
Watch out for the Mountaineers. They just won a basketball game tonight. Didn't go to that. Didn't have to. So we played Bellarmine.
Are they playing
Bellarmine? They played Bellarmine. They won by 20.
Hey,
yeah.
Maybe sneaky pick to like a April or March time interview. If you guys haven't heard of Bellarmine, Google it.
Yeah, they don't like to dribble. Anyway, I mean, we've only lost one game this year with Marquette in a preseason tournament after blowing a 12-point lead. So we're going strong there. But bowl season, look for us either in the Liberty Bowl, the Guaranteed Rate Bowl in Chase Field, maybe the Texas Bowl in Houston. That's where you're going to find the Mountaineers. Guys, it's bowl season. Like this is an FCS show now, but this is my favorite time of the year. I love bowl season. Wake up,
crazy season. Man.
Watch some random game in New Mexico or the Bahamas at 11 a.m. Eastern. It's fantastic. I don't know what else is better in life.
Yeah, all right. 100%. And Premier League teams looking up, MLS teams looking down. Dude, we left this show last week, and I sad frowny face. To the Weber State Weekly guys. Brian, I know you're not a soccer guy, but I think you can appreciate this. It's the playoffs, right? It's one and done. You got to win. You're the 2 seed, so you're the second best team in your conference. You're playing the 7 seed. The 7 seed purposely, what in soccer is called parks the bus, as in they do not try to win. It'd be like, when Idaho lost to Oregon State in basketball for the shot clock. It's like that.
It's like watching Idaho high school basketball when there's no shot clock and teams just dribble out for 2 minutes.
0 shots on goal for the entire bit of regulation and overtime, and they win in a shootout and advance. The lamest way to watch your powerhouse team lose is a severely inferior team literally go, you can do whatever you want. We're just not going to try. We're going to take a 50-50 coin flip at the end. End of the day, great strategy. It worked. But, man, what a waste of 3 hours of my life. It's like watching the Seahawks every Sunday.
Yeah, they have the 4th overall pick. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
The Jets have the 4th overall pick.
Well, let's be honest. The Jets never pick anybody valuable. I'm not worried about the Jets being ahead of us.
Well, no, they have your pick.
Oh, yeah, for Jamal Adams.
Yeah.
Wah, wah.
We're avoiding
Hey.
the elephant in the room. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, anywho, let's get into the coaching search, y'all. All right, we kind of came to you guys, #AskTubbs. So we got some candidates you guys want to hear about, some topics you guys want to hear about. So we're not going to do exactly like read out everybody's question, but kind of use it to drive some of this narrative. So we're pulling that up more middle to late pod. But today we're planning on talking candidates, rumors, stuff we've heard, because we keep getting asked, like, what have you guys heard? What have you guys heard? And then also we're going to talk a little bit transfer portal and obviously what you guys want to hear about. As well as time permitted. But right now we might be doing this for a while. So I kind of want to start, real quick with you guys on this. How you guys feeling about the time period? I mean, story broke 12 days ago. Paul coached his last game 10 days ago. So when you put it in those terms, it hasn't been all that long, but it sure as hell is starting to feel like a long time when you see programs like Jacksonville State make their hire, when you're seeing programs like LSU snatch other Power 5 job coaches, USC, like you're seeing some movement here. UW, Wazoo's got their guy. They went the interim route, something that we kind of said, depending on how long the athletic department knew about this, they probably should have given like Luther Ellis or Brian Reed or an interim route to prove it. Wazoo did it. Now they have their guy. So we're kind of sitting here 10 days from the last game, 12 days from knowing he's gone. Where are you guys at with the timeline on this? Brian?
I researched this because the athletic department is saying nothing, and I have contacted the athletic department. They're purposely saying nothing about this right now. I was concerned because the same thing you talked about, Chris. I mean, Terry essentially went on record with Stephen Weeb that she knew Paul was going to be fired around the Eastern game. I mean, she didn't directly say that, but she did all but say that in the Lewiston Tribune. Researching made me relax a little bit. The Big Sky timeline for hiring new coaches is essentially between December 1st and December 17th. The latest recent hire, and under normal circumstances, is Troy Taylor, December 17th, 2018 at Sacramento State. A lot of other recent hires are December 1st and December 11th. Notably for us, Bobby Houck, 2018, he was hired December 11th. And Chris Ball at AU was hired December 11th, 2018 for the 2019 season. So as long that would fit with getting between December 1st and December 15th, December 15th is early signing day. So if we can get early December, we're still okay. And we still fit within normal Big Sky timeline. So I'm relaxed. I'm choosing to relax right now, but that timeline is approaching pretty dang quick.
Yeah. Boatman, I know you kind of would have, I think we should be maybe further along or at least hearing more. What are kind of your opinions on it all?
Yeah. Early signing period, the National Signing Day is up here in
32 days.
15 days.
15 days.
15 days.
Yeah.
15 days from today, right now. From tonight.
If you're listening, 29 or 14.
No.
Jeez Louise.
13, actually.
13.
You are just a mess. Anyway. So early National Signing Day is new within the last few years. Brian and I did some research on this. 2017 is the first season of that. And we started to see a shift, kind of a paradigm in how hires have been going, especially at the FBS level. And I think everything will always trickle down, right? Texas Tech was a prime example of this. They're so bowl eligible. They fired their coach, Matt Wells, who was used to be Utah State's old head coach, back in like early November. Not too long before we fired, Petrino was let go. They made a hire while the season was still going on to hire Joey McGuire, who was an assistant at Baylor. And that guy has been there actively recruiting. They made that decision so he can go be there actively recruiting for this early signing day. And from what it's looking like, it's paying off for Texas Tech on that front. So we're starting to see programs do that. I think, because we've even tweeted out, Tubbs has tweeted out, guys who are getting offers from the old coaching staff at Idaho. It's like, so who are they talking to? What's happened to them? What's going on, right? Like, I don't know who's still employed at Idaho. I don't know who's responsible for talking to recruits right now. Idaho State, when they reassigned Rob Fennessy, they left on, I can't ever say his last name. He's been there for a long time. Their recruiting coordinator, assistant head coach, Faifa.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Anyway, but he stayed on that staff so he could keep recruiting. I don't know if we've done the same thing. So I'm starting to get a little more concerned on what's happening. I know we're talking about the transfer portal later. current guys on the team have no idea who their head coach is. Guys that we need to try to recruit. They don't know what's happening. And from what has come out since, it's come out that Paul was let go, or is that it sounded like the athletic department was working on this well into October. Like that's something that we didn't even know when this happened. So like what's been going on? Like it's kind of all quiet on the Western Front right now. And either they're doing a great job of keeping it really quiet to make sure nothing gets out, which is generally sometimes does happen, or we're just kind of maybe behind where I personally would like to see us at. I know you want to get the right guy, but time is of the essence. Like every minute that does go by, it could hurt us because it is in-home visit period right now in recruiting time. Like it's rare. That's a time you want to capitalize on. So yeah, I'm starting to get more nervous. Tomorrow's December 1st. So maybe if we don't hear anything by end of this week, early next week, I'm going to be really worried. Let's just say that.
Yeah. All right. My take on this, I'm the recruiting guy, right? Like I really love recruiting. I follow it. Martin and I are kind of the big dudes on that. This does worry me because like we touched on, 2017 was when this kind of early signing period took place. Before that, you had until February 5th. Like you had almost till Valentine's Day to get a coach in. Bowl games ended. The national championship was like literally 27 days ago. So unless you're like Alabama and Nick Saban left you to go to Miami, I know it didn't happen in that order, but example, then maybe you're pushing the clock. We have to get time around and do recruiting. But at that point, you're winning a title. You're probably recruiting with recruiting and signing from within. So yeah, it's a little worrisome. I know I've been reaching out to recruits to schedule like our friends at the Weber State Weekly did for you guys, some like recruiting profiles on like some kids that might be reaches for us, guys in our zone, maybe some guys below that might be preferred walk-ons or whatever. I have a couple of those lined up, but I get the same question every time. Like I haven't heard from Idaho in like a month. And so it's worrisome. I do agree. I think it was Tom Kendall who said it. And there's an article on Tubs at the Club right now, kind of with a couple of our top fives. And obviously these are changing like literally every day when we hear a new rumor. So it's already outdated. Sorry, spoiler alert if you haven't read it. Good thing you're a watcher and listener. But I think it comes down to the importance of making sure we get the right coach. I don't know if Tom, you're the one who said this for you, he's in the chat right now, but I saw it on Twitter, All Vandals. It said like, I am willing to give up one recruiting class, miss on one recruiting class over missing on the next head coach. Like patience is a virtue, right? Like that's what we're all taught. Like be patient, trust the process is the thing. Like as long as they get the right guy in here, I think we'll make up for it. But I would just kind of lamb it to what these guys have both said. That is the case, but like every day, I'm not saying this hire already wasn't important because like I know like somebody's probably like this hire was already important. It can't get any more important. I feel like every day that goes on, it starts to feel like the hire has to be that much more like, okay, that was worth the wait. Like it can't be, we got a sneaky young dude who we thinks has a lot of potential. It's going to have to become splashier and splashier. In my personal opinion, each day we wait. Now I'm willing to give us to about, it looks like Jeff Choate was the 5th. I'm willing to give us the 5th. That's 10 days for the guy to come in, basically 9 to recruit and push hard and try to get some dudes from early signing because you still do have a signing period in February. So you don't have to sign a full class here. It gives you time to evaluate who you currently have. And we have the transfer portal, which we'll touch on guys we're losing, but also, transfer portal's a two-way street. So I that's kind of where I'm at on this.
Can I jump and question your timeline real quick, Chris?
Yep.
So you referenced December 5th for Jeff Choate's hiring, which our crack research team did just post. The 5th is Sunday. So in terms of days, this would be announced. Friday is the 3rd.
Yeah.
Monday is the 3rd December. Monday is the 6th of December. Does that mean you're adjusting from the 5th to the 6th, meaning announced Monday?
3rd.
Okay, so do you end of this week is when you're ready to at least be looking at that.
I would say that's when my panic button, like if panic button's in a drawer, that's when I'm opening that drawer and making sure there's nothing in the way if I need it. Make sure it's still in that drawer. Like I'm checking to make sure I know where that panic button is. If it's not done by that following week, panic button's on my desk getting ready to hit. And once again, like if it's January 17th and Nick Saban comes to Idaho, like, I don't give a crap that it took till January 17th. But that's what I'm saying is if you take till January 17th, that's the hire I'm expecting. So that's kind of like where my timeline is with this. We had a great comment from Dustin Best. I'm going to try to put it on the screen here, but while I look for it, guys, it sounds like just kind of over under for you guys. Hire going to be on the 17th or earlier? Or sorry, later, over under. Later than the 17th or sooner than the 17th?
Sooner.
It
needs to be or think it will be?
Oh, I mean, it needs to be. I'm not sure it's going to be before that.
So we're gonna get to this in the next segment too. I'm going to say it's got to be before the 17th because if any of the info that we believe we might have is correct, and there are some home run candidates, we need to slam those. Like if we have home run candidates, I don't care about bureaucratic processes. The point of those is to get the best candidate. If we've got some whales that are just interested in the job, we need to get them and get them fast.
Wow, Brian, it's like you read my mind. All right, we put out a little piece, like right after the news came out about Paul, listing our reaches. And we got some flack from outside of the Idaho fan base. I think a little optimism from the Idaho fan base, but realism, right? Like they're saying these are reaches, people who might be, under the right circumstances would be interested in this job. But we got a lot of flack from people that were saying, no way, why would this person? That doesn't make sense. Let's kind of touch some of those whales or those reaches and the rumors we've heard about them. Because I will say personally, when I released that article, a lot of these guys, I thought maybe one became a serious candidate. The batting average is well into Hall of Fame range if we were playing baseball right now. Brian, I know, what are kind of some of the – I mean, you hit me with what whales you think are going to pop off the page to most people. Like I said, we haven't vetted everything here, guys. These are all a lot of rumors, but obviously we play in a circle with people that are knowledgeable, and we're not saying their sources are, so we're not going to bet our houses on these, but these are not Joe Schmo random Twitter account egg emoji.
Yeah.
Sent us these.
Yeah.
These are legit.
To set the table. Yeah. This is not stuff that's confirmed. When I hit publish on the Paul report, that was confirmed. This is not that. But this is information from sources that are anonymous because all our sources are anonymous. If you don't like it, then go listen to another show. But this is not bullshit. We think there's reason to believe some of these are pretty good. So whale number one, man, it's the one we've been talking about on the show as a joke under hashtag damaged goods. We've had a couple people say, and a couple people means more than one, tell us that Bo Baldwin is allegedly interested in the Idaho job in a way that is more meaningful than our joke hashtag damaged goods ever imagined it could be. So that whale number one is the whale that we've joked about on the show forever. Bo Baldwin, Cal Poly's looking like maybe it was more ambitious than he realized. He was great. He is one of the historically best Big Sky coaches in the modern era. I mean, probably is the most successful modern Big Sky coach the last 30 years or so. So if that's the case, man, that's a whale that we've had people reasonably say he may be applying. I'm excited as hell.
Yeah. I want to hit whale number two because this is one I've kind of been plugging for a while. We have heard, and I can't confirm whether we know because I don't remember, applied or not, but I believe it is that he has applied, and that would be the man 8 miles west that is very atomic to some, very exciting to others. We've heard Nick Rolovich has legit interest, and I believe has actually came to the university and expressed his interest. We're talking about okay, you thought Bo Baldwin was a swinging, okay, well, he just took Cal Poly, Eastern Washington. Would he do that? He's getting money. He's on the beach. Swing. We hit a double on that, right? We're not quite home, but we're feeling pretty good. It might lead to a run. Man, Nick Rolovich was you're 0-2 and a ball's coming at you and you have to swing. And man, this thing is looking like it's going to end up real pretty because from what we've been told, he likes the Palouse, doesn't really want to move. I believe he has like a teenage-ish daughter. So like they get to stay on the Palouse, not uproot her. And I believe we heard has applied. So, I mean, I'm loving the Rolovich stuff, but Bowman, do you kind of have any other whales?
I'll comment on those two real quick. Yeah, Bo Baldwin.
Oh yeah, we're comment. I guess we can have a roundtable about these. It is
Bo Baldwin's 96 and 46 in his head coaching career. Right now, the head coach at Cal Poly. Before that, spent 3 seasons at Cal in different forms, whether it's assistant head coach or running back coach or an OC. He was the OC for 3 years. Before that, at Eastern, well documented for 9 seasons. Won a national title, took him to playoffs constantly. Before that, head coach at Central for a year. So that's Bo Baldwin. Nick Rolovich resume, recently at Washington State, who just finished second in the Pac-12 North. I think that team would have been heading that direction anyway, if that whole thing wasn't a distraction of what just happened. Before that was at Hawaii, went 28 and 27 there. Before that, he was Nevada OC, Hawaii OC, runs the run and shoot. Different from the air raid. It's not the air raid, right? The run and shoot's a fun offense, most popularized by Hawaii. June Jones, back in the day there. State. Mouse Davis, who was at Boise, in Boise State, right? So yeah, that's an interesting one. And they both make sense. Logically, right? Bo Baldwin, still has family in the Eastern Washington, North Idaho area. He's from the area. He's not from, but he lived a long time of his life in this area. Could want to come back up north here if things aren't working out. Cal Poly, right? Chance to fresh start. Rolovich, how often do you get fired for something? Right? What we're dealing with, not football related. That wasn't a scandal in the sense that he cheated or there was some shady recruiting stuff, right? It's the vaccine, right? It's a very hot topic of debate in today's society. He worked in the state of Washington, and those were the state of Washington's rules. We're the state of Idaho. It's very different with what state mandates are. So how often could you literally not move your life at all for a job that requires you to move your life constantly, to move to a place and coach in a place where that won't matter? It's kind of a rare, it's a unicorn. No, it doesn't happen like anywhere else. So I could get the interest. I could totally understand that, right? That would make sense. If he's willing to take a literally pay cut from $3 million to $300,000, but still, I get it if that's true, right?
Yeah.
We're just hearing there's been interest, Again, these are just kind of like rumors that are floating out there in the ether. I guess another name that might be one that we've heard is interested. Jeff Choate. That's a name that was floated to us. That
almost
has
casually.
And a pretty good source on that one.
And multiple at this point, I believe.
And multiple, right? So we don't know whether that's – and Jeff Choate, right, most recently the head coach at Montana State, currently the assistant co-DC and special teams coordinator. Or I forget all his titles. Forget all his title in Texas, right? It's title. He's one of their top defensive assistants. Horns Don. We took care of them here in Morgantown the other week. Put them in their place, kept them out of a bowl. You're welcome. So
that's probably why Jeff Choate's looking.
And it's been floated to us that he would be interested. Granted, we don't know if he's actually interested or
he's an ego guy. Yeah.
Or if he wants his name out there.
Get a raise.
To get a raise or to put him out for another job, whether it's a DC, another Power 5, or be a head coach somewhere else, right? We're not sure. But these are names. Those are 3 names that have been floated to us by multiple different people. People would have laughed at us if we would have mentioned in a serious light a week and a half ago, Chris.
Yeah, Bear Tycoon just described Jeff Choate. I thought he did it best. His take was Jeff Choate is not interested in the Idaho job.
Correct. He's not interested. So those are some names, and I guess I'll tackle the elephant in the room. It's a name that Idaho fans know well. It's probably our most famous alum in the coaching ranks. It's Scott Linehan. We've heard differing things of he might be interested to he's not interested. Here's my take on it. And I have no too solid information on this. If Scott Linehan wanted this job, this search would be over and he would have the job. That's my take on it. And I think if you're at a university, you cannot turn down. If he came to you and said, I'll be your head coach, give me this X number of dollars within reason, we would say, no problem, here's a contract. And he would have been our head coach already. The fact that he's not and it's taking this long tells me he's probably not going to be the head coach. That's just my take on it.
Yeah. My kind of just reviews on kind of what we talked about before we pass it back to Brian real quick. And then he can kind of give his reviews. As the big Rolovich guy, just because, all right, I'm a kook. Most people in our chats are freaking Huskies, so, I deal with this a lot. I didn't
Real quick, Jake Hainer, who left Washington to go to Fresno State, and Washington hired his head coach, is now transferring back to Washington.
Yep.
That just kills me. I love the transfer portal. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Hey, maybe we'll get a certain God damn it, what's that guy's name?
Dylan Morris. We're not getting we're not getting Sam Heward. We're not getting Sam Heward. We're getting Dylan Morris before Sam Heward.
Minshew or die. Rolovich, yes, it's an unfortunate situation. I didn't like what was happening at Wazoo. I thought it was a huge distraction for the Cougars. But never once did I backtrack on the fact that Nick Rolovich is a hell of a freaking coach. I think that's what made it so hard as a Coug fan. Seeing all that go down was you knew he was going to lose. Rolovich was going to be out. You're not beating the state of Washington, especially when the governor's involved. You're just not going to. And it sucked because Wazoo is backpedaling a bit from the Leach thing. Rolovich seemed to be able to translate, aerate the run and shoot interest. It was starting to click. I think you see that. I think the team is benefiting from a lot of the work he put in. I'm not saying Dickert is a bad hire. I just think that a lot of that was Rolovich's work. So that's where I'm just going to say, I'd like to think here by next football season, things look more normal. And the football season after that, more normal and more normal, more normal. We'll probably never get back to what it was in 2019. But at some point, the guy could coach football. And look, we're Idaho, man. We got to take a check. Maybe it's just my moral compass and I'll own this. At this point, I just want to win, man. It could be Al frickin' Davis. I don't care. I just want to win, baby.
Art Briles?
Not that bad. All right. I am against anything that involves actual violent crime, I should say.
Art Briles was cleared by the NCAA. He wasn't cleared by what.
And as we know, the NCAA knows all, and they're the final say on everything.
Yeah. I'll just say,
we open up next year?
Crime, I'm willing to give somebody a shot.
Imagine Idaho at Pullman next year.
Oh, yeah.
First game of the year.
Rolovich knows that system inside and out. You want to win the Battle of Palouse? I'll tell you who gives us the best shot next year, Bo Baldwin or Nick Rolovich, because they've beaten him. But.
So what I'll say on the Whales is I think Jeff Choate is probably the least likely because just based off the info we've heard.
Which is wild to think because you would have thought
after Scott
10
Linehan,
days ago,
we're
he was the most likely.
Yeah.
And after Scott Linehan, because we're pretty sure Scott's not taking the job, like we said. I think you guys would probably co-sign my take that if he wanted the job, he would have the job by now.
I think if he wanted the job and he'd enunciated it because of how connected he is with alums, everyone, if he really wanted it, everyone would know. And the alum, the moneyed alums would probably be pretty stoked about
Right.
Scott.
So out of the Whales, we're going definitely not probably Scott. We're pretty sure to Choate is least likely out of the three who could take it or could be interested.
Thing about Bo Baldwin is not only does he have family, we were told he still has family who lives in the Cheney area.
I think that's confirmed.
He lived
85% that.
He lived the majority of his childhood and early adult life in the Northwest. He graduated from high school in College Place, Washington. From 1990 until 2016, he was either playing or coaching at Central Washington or coaching at Eastern Washington. So that's a really long time for the guy to have ties to this area. And very quick. In 9 years at Eastern, makes the playoffs 6 times. 5 times they make the quarters. 4 times they make the semis. He leaves with a championship. That's why people like me were big on #damaged goods. I would still call him a not that likely yet, because we just don't know for sure that he has applied, but we have reasonable information pointing us to like, hey, like this isn't complete bullshit. Rolovich, Chris, I'm going to mostly co-sign what you said. We absolutely know there's coach in the Big Sky who didn't get the shot, and it's just because of the media coverage of the Big Sky is different than it is in the Pac-12, and the organization of the Big Sky is different than it is in the Pac-12. I will say, I agree with you. He should have got it. It would have helped that team a ton, but he did follow the protocols he had to until he was dismissed.
Up until that point, yeah.
Yep, which lets me know that, hey, if there's protocols that Terry tells him he'll have to follow, he probably would. He's already done it. And like, if we can get a good guy on a 90% discount, he's got to make at least the top 2, right?
Yeah. I don't know how you say no. If he's actually genuinely interested, right, compared to other potential names we might go over here soon, like if both these guys are interested, these are guys that you interview more than once and definitely make finalists.
Or you interview 2 people. Like if both these guys are interested relative to other guys we're going to talk about, I'd say, yeah, dude, screw the rest of the list. Interview these 2 people, pick the one you like the most at the end.
Yep.
Right. Fact. And I don't think you're going to miss. Like that's like these are 2 mostly can't miss hires. We don't know what ball would turn Cal Paul into because a year and a half there with COVID, also in the middle of COVID, we're unsure of what he would have turned that into if he did come back.
Yep. Chris, you've been the one not on the damaged goods train as much. Well, would you take Rolovich over Baldwin given the choice? Let's pretend they both interview and they both want it. Who do you take?
Man, I would love to be Terry Golick and have that be my options, to be honest with you. Like, yes, I've not been on the Bo Baldwin damaged goods. Like, I think he's by far our number 1 candidate train. I've also moved Nick Rolovich back because I thought it was less and less likely. And just the worry about the drama it would bring, obviously, I think it makes him less attractive. But, like, I'm trying to view it unbiased mind here of, like, for Christ's sakes, people said we should have hired Bobby Petrino. Like, Nick Rolovich is a better human than Bobby Petrino. I'd probably lean Rolovich.
You just want to say Rolovich, Chris. You can say it.
Rolovich or Rolowich? Is Rolowich a listener? Comment if they are. I'd probably lean Rolovich, but like, sometimes it's hard to like look at that drama. Like,
that just happened. It feels like a year removed, right? Like,
yeah,
we're talking like 2 months removed.
Because we're gonna be. You really got to believe in that point at the precipice of there's no such thing as bad publicity, right? Because like, you bet your ass, if Rich Rodriguez getting hired by Jacksonville State is making the front page of ESPN, and Kill getting hired by New Mexico State is making the front page of ESPN. Oh, you better believe Nick Rolovich is making a couple front pages wherever he gets hired. So you're going to have to wear that if you're Idaho. Like, that is something to keep in mind, is that you're going to get a publicity storm, and you're going to have some people that want to beat you because they just don't like you because he's a highly controversial topic. Like, will that fade over time? Yes. But you're going to be his first job after that. Like, you're going to have to wear the blunt of, like, people want Rolovich. There will be people that root for Rolovich to fail. There'll also be a lot of people that root for him to succeed. But, like, let's focus on the negatives. Yeah, I would say you might want to leave Baldwin at that point, to be honest with you. But I think Rolovich they're both good coaches. I mean, you're pulling straws. If I'm Terry Golick, I shouldn't whiff at that situation. Like, I will be praised as a savior, a pharaoh of Moscow, because I had 2 phenomenal options where literally I'm picking Hank Aaron or Ken Griffey Jr. Or Barry Bonds. Actually, Barry Bonds is a great comparison. Am I going with Barry Bonds or am I going with Ken Griffey Jr.? Either way, you're going to win some games and set some records.
Alex, did you hear an answer there? Because I don't think I did.
I don't think so either.
Rolovich. I'll take Rolovich.
Okay,
there we go.
I guess here's my thing, right? Like, here's my thing is that Rolo's never been a coach at the FCS level.
True.
Bo Baldwin has, right? So, like, those are things to consider. Who do you think leaves you faster? Probably Rolo, right? You would think, maybe he might leave you 2 years' time, but so that's the deal with the devil you make when you're at this level of competition. So I mean, I would probably take Rolo still, right? And a name that we're going to mention soon here is someone who we've also under his staff is also someone who's we've heard was interested or still has interest in this job, right? So if that's the person you can bring with you as your OC, fantastic. Like it'd be an exciting time here in Moscow, that's for sure, right? So yeah, I would still probably say Rolo. I think I would. Like I know it's going to be controversial, but like that's the more exciting hire to me. That's a guy whose team
that's worth waiting 12 days to announce.
So
yes.
I think I'm going to answer real quick. I'd go Baldwin, but I think that the attention Rolovich would bring should be, even though it, Chris, you said it, some of it would be antagonistic. That would be a positive to me. One of the things Idaho has to do is fill that damn dome. I mean, we all saw NAU. Yeah, it was better senior night, but at this point, I don't think Idaho can afford to not get attention when there's attention to be gotten. So
it's free marketing, for better or worse.
Yeah. So no, I would, for the reasons you guys said in the inverse, I would go Baldwin because I think there's a chance he'd settle now in a way that maybe he wouldn't have a few years ago. But there's a home run. Last whale point really quick before we transition to other guys, just so listeners know, like, hey, we're not just like blowing steam up everyone's ass. We did learn that a whale we were hopeful about is not interested, or very likely not interested. Joel Thomas works for New Orleans Saints. Rumor we got is just not happening. Not enough money. Not going to work.
NFL, you get a pension, right? If you're there long enough, it's hard to walk away from that.
Well, and that's one thing with Scott Linehan is he's close
Doug
to a
Nussmeier.
pension.
And
right.
Nussmeier.
So I guess people are also going to ask about Nuss, Casey Dunn, and Brian Lindgren. Those are names we haven't heard anything about. So we're just
those reaches that like there's been
we just haven't heard anything.
Not even like a skipped rock over that.
Right.
Pump.
So we can't really comment on anything we've heard because we haven't heard anything on.
Would love them.
Lindgren,
They'd be up there with Baldwin in them for sure. Like they would be our big
Casey
hires.
Dunn. So those are names people are going to ask us if we know anything. We don't. So I think we can kind of close the book on the whales and kind of into the dregs of names that people might not be familiar with, but we have heard.
Yeah. Most of which I know, like it's a joke. These are not dregs of names. Like a lot of these guys.
I meant more like
it's a lot of names.
It's a lot of names thrown at us that aren't going to be the splashy Rolovich or Bo Baldwin, but they are names that have interest.
Ian Shoemaker? Brian, I know you've been the one that's heard a lot of Shoe, and you and producer Dammer were kind of the guys who were originally on the Shoe train. I know there was quite a few people on the Shoe train. I know I've already coined that if we hire him, we're calling him forever Salty Shoe because he was still on the team when he smoked Idaho. And man, with that game against Eastern next year, no EB3 and we get the Salty Shoe, I'm all in. But tell me about the Salty Shoe.
So Ian Shoemaker, previously head coach of Central Washington for, I believe it was 3 seasons, did well at Central Washington. He replaced Bodie Reeder. You remember that name, guys. He replaced Bodie Reeder as offensive coordinator at Eastern Washington in 2019. So he did the 2019 season, spring season, and then this season he was resigned, but we all know off the record, everyone tells us he was fired from Eastern after the Montana State game. The Eastern did not give any reason, said it was a personnel issue, wasn't going to comment. We heard, when no reason's given, it's easy for people's head to go to like the darkest potential reason. And we heard rumors that it was related to player interactions, but I spent a decent amount of time working the phones on this. I have now had 3 separate entities say the same thing. It was a disagreement with Aaron Best on the sideline that was probably simmering for a long time, but came to a head at the Montana State game, and it was overplay calling. And Aaron Best essentially co-signed this in the press conference when after the game, he said, if our defense gives up 23 points against Montana State, we should not lose. Sounds like it was a personality disagreement there. And I can tell you that makes me not concerned if Ian Shoemaker's actually interested. We've heard reasonable rumors that he is. He was originally one of the top guys on the first list Chris published with a huge asterisk, as in, hey, we don't know what happened here. But I know based off what I've talked to I'm officially no longer worried. He's not a whale, but he's a great candidate.
I think someone like him does. I really like him as a candidate. I really do. Right. A couple years at Eastern, we see what that offense has done. Granted, you are working with Eric Barrier, but now you can work with CJ Jordan, right? Like that's who you're going to work with next, who's an up-and-comer quarterback in the Big Sky. Before he's at Eastern, he was the head coach at Central Washington. So that's what I really like. He has head coaching experience, the division below. He's been up at our division, had success there, went I just had it. He won 2 conference titles in 2017 and 2018, went 38-16. Good record at the D2 level. That typical Central and Eastern connection. That's the type of guys that end up being like Bo Baldwin, end up being like Paul Wolf, right? Like that's that connection.
That's
there.
the exact career path that Bo Baldwin had, except Ian Shoemaker coached for more than one season at Central.
Right. So I would really like this hire. Now that we've heard that it was more of a disagreement with Aaron Best, even more of a reason why I want him, right? Like
stay salty. Like that would be some, like he didn't like Petrino. Like that was well known. Imagine what he would think about this guy being our head coach. So out of the list of names that we have heard of interest, this would be one below the Whales that I would be pretty happy with. I think this would be a good hire, Vandal fans. Like it's exciting. I would like to see, and we know he can delegate. Like that's one of my biggest things is I want a guy who can be a CEO and delegate. He has that head coaching experience. He's won as a head coach. That's not a lot. That's a lot of that's something not a lot of guys on this list do have. So that's why he would be near the top of my list. Yeah, I'm kind of one of the bigger haters on the Shoemaker thing originally, but like I said, I had him at 3. Like, so saying I had him as a hater is less. I would just say I dropped him almost like to not even being an honorable mention after what originally we started to think might have been the case with the news. Haters gonna hate. This point, Shu is like, if you like Baldwin and let's say Baldwin interviews but turns us down, like Shu should probably be your number 2 guy. And I'm not saying like that's fair to Shoemaker. He might be better than Baldwin. He has never been given that shot, So, in hindsight, Baldwin turning you down in 15 years, you might look back and go, thank God he didn't say yes. He got fired from Cal Poly and then bounced around and blah, 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 blah. And Shoemaker could be great, So Shoemaker is reclimbing my polls. This news we've heard confirming it's with each person, we probably every 2.5, 3 days, we get a new confirmation that it was more of a disagreement on play calling. Makes him move up a little bit more each time. Yeah. I would say he's back in my top 10. He's not quite in my top 5, but I'd be as long as we don't pick him over like Rolovich or Baldwin, he's probably up there for me.
We could do a lot worse.
Chris, the only amendment I'd give there, because again, like guys, this is the rumor section. We already gave the preface that sources are anonymous. This is not like officially through any administrative channels. Easily, the sum of our evidence is that Shoemaker's personality. It was a personality thing that he had with Aaron Best, where it just came to a head. I wouldn't say it's confirmed because like this wasn't someone on the Eastern staff telling us, but it's guys who've been reliable, and it's multiples. So I feel okay saying the most likely outcome of that dismissal was the personality thing.
Yeah. Let's talk his predecessor. What do you guys think about Mr. Bodie Reeder?
I feel like this was a name that I mentioned like a while ago for something. I can't remember what it was. I don't know how he came up in my timeline here. I think it'd be an interesting one. That's a name that's been mentioned to us. He's now currently, I want to say, a quarterback analyst at Auburn.
Offensive coordinator and QB coach at Utah State.
No, he's at Auburn right now.
Oh, he is?
For Harsin. Yeah, as an analyst.
Fake news. Thank you, Boatman, for clearing that up.
Yeah. So he is an offensive analyst at Auburn, who just fired Mike Bobo as their OC. Mike Bobo was the head coach that Paul Petrino beat in a bowl game. So small world. There he is. They don't have a bio because that's a big schools do. But before that, he was the OC at Utah State and quarterback coach for 2020. Year before that, he was the OC and quarterback coach at North Texas. Year before that, he was the OC and quarterback coach for Eastern Washington, Eric Berrier's breakout year, and the Eagles' trip to Frisco in 2018. So that's his background. I want to say also he's been offensive coordinator for 6 years. Was at Oklahoma State as a quality control guy before that. Offensive coordinator at a small school in Wisconsin. Played at Eastern Illinois, which is home of, anyone know? 2 NFL.
Tony Romo and what's this freaking bucket? Plays for the San Francisco 49ers.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
That one.
Right? Yeah, so it'd be an interesting hire. No head coaching experience, but been an OC at the FCS, D2, it looks like, and now FBS level. So we could do worse, like kind of a name that gets out there. That's kind of the ones that you start hearing names on that you go, all right, we think that's pretty reliable because these aren't names you just throw around for no reason. So I would be okay with this. I think, but I'd rather have Shoemaker.
I like Bodie Reeder absolutely as a guy who's interested in the job. He, just fun fact for us, he took over as offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at Eastern Washington. He took over when Troy Taylor left for University of Utah. So just another Big Sky connection. Benefit is, look, when he was at Eastern, he was great. He's looked pretty solid elsewhere. He's moving up the coaching totem pole, as in going from Big Sky to North Texas to Utah State in the Mountain West to, it's not the same level of position at Auburn, but that's clearly moving up in conferences. Reasonable to think that there's a recruiting footprint he'd have to be pretty broad. But you're right. No head coaching experience. So that's always going to be a gamble with anyone with no head coaching experience. But I mean, this is another guy on our list that if we found out tomorrow we hired Bodie Reeder, I'd be excited as hell. Now, I have no reason to think we actually will.
I think people might go, who? But then they do a little research and go, all right, that's all right. That's all right.
Big Sky guys would hear the name Bodie Reeder and be like, oh, yeah, that's a good hire.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They think probably have some nightmares. This guy took, Eastern 2018's offense to the national title game. Next up,
quarterback.
Yeah, with a pretty dang good one. But let's be honest, they were going probably even with the starter. Gage Gabrud.
Gubrud, man. Gubrud.
Was not playing that bad. Maybe they don't make the title, but it always helps when you have like guy like EV3 in the background. Now let's go over. We've talked about a bunch of Eastern connections. Let's talk about one of those other rivals we've got. What do you guys think about Brett Peace? Moscow born.
Yeah, this is a little interesting.
Assistant head coach.
Long resume, very long resume. If I'm glancing down, it's because I have these screens on my iPad,
years
guys.
As a donk.
Yeah, born in Moscow, grew up in Mountain Home, played at Walla Walla Community College when they had a football team. Then he played at Montana, became the starting quarterback as a senior in '86. So has history in the Big Sky. Bounced around, looks like NFL Europe for a while. Arena League, things like that. Started off OC at Montana, OC at NAU, assistant head coach OC at Kentucky, OC at Baylor, receiver coach at Boise State, assistant head coach at Boise State, OC at Boise State, OC at Florida, receiver coach at Washington under Coach Pete in 2014-15, the OC at UTEP, and now most recently the assistant head coach and wide receiver coach at Montana. Long resume. He's been around great head coaches. He's been around a lot of different guys. Whether it's time at Baylor, whether it's his time at Boise State working for Coach Pete, and now at Montana, I no head coaching experience, but Big Sky experience. And he has been around everywhere. He's 57, so he's older, but he's not like retirement age yet, right? I think this could be a Choate-ish hire. Does that make sense? That type of experience, going around a lot of places, learning from some people. Never had a chance to be a head guy. Why not us? That I would be okay with it. I think actually, even though he's a Bronco and a Grizz, I'd be okay.
Born in Moscow.
Yeah, Moscow born. Bring him home. Bring him home.
We're talking about let's have some ties to Idaho. This is like the perfect Brian Marceau candidate. Actually has zero ties to Idaho, the program, but has ties to the city of Moscow
and the state. Has
experience in the state of Idaho, and Brian's a Montana man. In case you guys didn't know. Hey, and he coached Sammy Akem, Samori Toure, two possible NFL guys. I mean, Akem has kind of dropped off a cliff without Toure, but Toure was up for the Bluntikov this year and is looking like he'll get drafted.
Yeah.
But yeah. So he's coached possibly two NFL caliber wide receivers. I mean, I know those are Bob Stitt recruits, but you still got to coach them. We see that all the time. We get guys in our D line, no offense to these guys. Obviously, thank you for your time. Nate DeGraw was not Nate DeGraw when we recruited him, that's a lot of Luther getting in there and getting his hands dirty. Sometimes it's about the coach. I think we see that in some of our position groups, unfortunately, over the years, but also fortunately in other places.
Brent Peace, if he is the guy, and this is one of the ones we're more confident about, we don't believe it's necessarily just a rumor. We're pretty sure our sources say, yeah, he applied.
He almost made my honorable mention. The age in Montana's offense scared me, but looking at it hindsight, fresh picture like this, it's dumb that I didn't include him.
And very also dumb. Montana 2019, very good team, made the Final 8. They were not the offense they are this year. And Brent Peace is not the play caller for that team. So, I don't know. Point against him, he's not the play caller, but point for him, he's not the play caller.
He's not the play caller.
Yeah.
Pick a year.
Pretty really nice resume. His resume looks like if you were going to have a guy with every experience except being head coach, that's what you have if you get Brent Peace. Brent Peace has experience both at the FCS, at Mountain West level, and at the Power 5 level. I mean, you're always rolling the dice, like we said, Billy Reeder. Guy has no head coaching experience. Yeah, let's roll the dice. But sometimes in the Big Sky, if you get a good candidate, that's what you got to do. He's old enough that I would be less scared about him bailing after, if things go well. I'm less scared about him bailing after 2 years because, hey, things have gone well in Montana. He hasn't bailed as their associate head coach. So I'm optimistic. If this is our guy, if this is our guy, Chris, on your December 6th timeline, I'm still saying great news.
That is still a thumbs up if he's hired December 6th. Mm-hmm. We are not to Nick Saban has to be this higher territory if he December 6th he fits that category.
I think we do a better job of recruiting Idaho.
Really quick. Sorry, but with the asterisk really quick, just based off the info we have, because obviously if we have a whale in there and we don't go with him, we're all gonna feel different. But presuming that we
turn down Bo Baldwin for Brent Peace, I'm gonna be questioning.
But presuming our whales are low likely outcomes, and this list is the more likely outcomes, no, Brent Peace would be great.
Yep,
I think we do a better job of recruiting Idaho, right? So a guy who's in the Big Sky knows that. But I think also there's room to penetrate into Montana just a little bit, right? There's some guys out there.
Adam Ball.
There's guys out there. So having a guy like this, maybe you can get some guys from Helena that play here and there, right? Maybe you can find that. And so I think that could be good. Obviously we know Montana guys went, compete in the Big Sky pretty well because they've done it for years. So I think
we go back-to-back Montana-born coaches. Oh, I guess he's Idaho-born.
Ooh.
Sorry.
Yeah, he's Idaho-born. All right.
Let's move up next. One that we've heard a lot from a lot of people. I don't know if it gets your guys' up and giddity, but Mike Cox, former defensive coordinator and linebacker coach at UTEP.
Yeah.
We've heard he had very big interest in this. We've heard he had an idea this coaching job might be kind of like, I think every Vandal fan, since he's a Vandal fan, knew that this one could become available. And it sounds like he's done some work possibly on his own to kind of get positioned for this one well. Do you guys like where that's at? Do you like the ambition? Or is this still one? Because, for me, I'm being honest, if we were talking, we're in Montana State's last year, position last year where our coach left us and we're in a good spot, yeah, maybe this is a guy you bring in. Rebuilding program, a coach that was just fired. We're talking about Rolovich being atomic. talk about Terry Golick hiring a fired coach. I mean, I know the head coach was fired and he was just on this. No, that's not true. The head coach wasn't fired. He was just let go from that staff, I believe. So that's like, he's an Idaho guy. He's from Coeur d'Alene. He played at Idaho. His son's at Idaho. I just think we can do better, I guess is what I'm saying. I wouldn't be totally disheartened if he got hired, but like we're talking like he would have had to been hired 3 days ago for me to be like okay with that hire.
He would. What I'd say, Chris, is I'm looking at his resume, and good news, he has pretty varied experience in terms of location. Started Idaho, linebackers coach at Idaho, linebacker coach at Utah State, Louisville, Michigan State. Defensive assistant with the Rams, linebackers coach, University of Washington, linebackers coach for a while with Bob Snyder, Kansas State.
Bill Snyder.
Snyder. Sorry, I got the B and I got the Snyder. Bill Snyder. Then UTEP is his first time as a coordinator. So like that's not like an underwhelming resume, but he only has a couple years as a coordinator, meaning in terms of like leadership. I'd say that Mike Cox would have some work to do to sell me on Mike Cox.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he sounds like a guy motivated to do that. The Coeur d'Alene alums, the Northern Idaho alums are ecstatic about that, and that is not an irrelevant metric in terms of getting fan engagement, in terms of getting money to the VSF. So I don't want to treat that like it doesn't matter, because it does. And it's promising that he is clearly a guy willing to engage with the fan base. We could use that. Again, look at the dome seats. But I would need some work done for me to be like, okay, we have a home run here.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. I think like if your whales fall through and your guys like a Pease and a Shoemaker fall through, not a bad hire, right? Like Idaho ties, someone who cares thoroughly about the program. So that's always good, right? Like, and from what I've heard, he doesn't need to work. Like he wouldn't leave. He would only leave if things got bad, but he wouldn't like pull a Dennis Erickson on us. Speaking of Dennis Erickson,
to be fair, we didn't think Dennis Erickson would pull Dennis Erickson.
Well, now looking back on it, he wasn't that old when that whole thing that went down. Like he was early 60s. Anyway,
yeah, I guess.
Mike Cox is about as Idaho Vandal as you could get from Coeur d'Alene. One of our all-time leading tacklers in program history. Played for Dennis Erickson, played for Keith Gilbertson, and then literally coach for John L. Smith 87 through 94, coach for John L. Smith 95 to 97 at Utah State, coach for John L. Smith 98 through 02, coach for John L. Smith from 03 to 06 at Michigan State. He coached with John L. Smith for 20 years from Idaho to Michigan State as the linebacker coach. So clearly John L. valued this guy. And then after that, went to the St. Louis Rams, where Scott Linehan was the head coach.
So but would you say with Michigan State that the players were playing their hearts out and the coaches were screwing it up? Wouldn't he be one of those coaches? Isn't that John L. Smith's like most memorable tagline of all time? The players are playing their hearts out and the coaches are screwing it up. And he like slaps himself.
What's the L stand for in John L? Anyway, Lucifer. Anyway, that was always a joke I've always heard. But
good guy.
Yeah, John L's fantastic, like Idaho legend. So, but then he went to St. Louis Rams, and Scott Linehan was there. The only time in his career that he wasn't with a Vandal at some level was 09 to 16. Then he was at UTEP. The AD is Jim Center, who worked at Idaho for a long time, was back in Moscow with Mike Cox and Chris Tormey and Dennis Erickson for the Montana game. Jim Center, who's the current AD at UTEP, was back in Moscow. So he's a good Vandal, right? Like he's a guy that I think I would maybe like as a DC or a linebacker coach, like someone who cares about the program. He'd be okay head coach. Like I'd be all right with it, only if things fell through, if that makes sense. Like I think I'd rather hire a younger up and comer than someone like him at this moment. I'd rather just take a gamble on someone like that. But it's good to hear that guys with experience and guys who love the program do want to be involved and be back at Idaho.
No, and just want to reiterate, because I think a lot of us co-sign that, Alex. Everything we've heard is if there is a candidate who's interested, who's going to do the legwork to get people who are maybe lukewarm on this hire on his side. Mike Cox is the kind of guy who will try to do that work.
Right. and I know he's been really, pushing hard. So he does really want this, and he would really work, I think, with a lot of boosters to be involved. Things that were kind of lacking with Petrino. I know he wasn't the most accessible coach to boosters like at Idaho as he normally used to. And that's fine. That's a certain coach's style. I think he wasn't achy, right? I think Mike Cox be more like an achy, I think, than that. Taylor Cash bringing up Andy Thompson in the chat. Yeah, we only wish we had news on Andy Thompson there, Taylor Cash. We only wish.
Yeah, so we got the Tubbs, the hashtag Ask Tubbs to go to. We might not get the transfer portal today, which
that's all right.
But I'll start pulling up hashtag Ask Tubbs. We got a couple.
Isn't there one candidate we want to have a quick discussion about?
Oh, we've got a couple.
Alleged maybe candidate.
Yeah, we've got a couple. I was saying, I'm letting people know, if you've asked on Twitter, we're gonna get to your people. We're gonna move fast.
This is a longer one because there's a lot of information we're trying to
yeah, and you guys asked about a lot of people too. So we're trying to deliver content, baby. Content is king. We've talked about discount, Bo Baldwin. Let's talk about discount Nick Rolovich. Craig Stutzman, a man we've heard had a little bit of interest in this job, possibly even reached out to the athletic department about scheduling an interview. Thoughts on the Stutz? I should say he's a Rolovich dude for the people that aren't aware of Craig Stutzman.
Rolovich tree.
Yeah.
Disciple.
I'm going to say part of it has to do with is he going to be as willing to follow the protocols as Rolovich clearly was? I don't know the answer, which also means I don't know the answer is no. But if this were any other year, if we hear a Power 5 coordinator wants this job, then we're pretty dang happy. It's like, look at Sacramento State, Power 5 coordinator Troy Taylor wants a job. Great. Weber State back in 2012. University of Utah special teams coordinator Jay Hill wants the job. Great guy, great candidate to look at. So Craig Stutzman, I'm nowhere near as high as I probably should be based off the Power 5 coordinator wanting the job, but provided he was willing to do the stuff we know Rolovich showed he is to follow through with whatever protocols take place. I mean, this is a guy that you would probably be excited if it were any other situation other than what happened at WSU.
Yeah, he was a receiver coach at Weber from 12 and 13, so a little Big Sky experience there. Receiver coach at Portland State in 09 as well, so more Big Sky experience. It's tough. He was a passing game coordinator for Rolovich and quarterback coach at Hawaii for 4 seasons, 16 to 19, and the co-OC and quarterback coach at Wazoo for 20 and 21 until he was let go with Rolovich this year. I'm always intrigued when you see co-OCs, like who was calling plays, right? So I want to know maybe his experience on that. I'm not saying I want him to call plays, but I do think people who lead units and do things like that, have led people like that, always intrigue me more. So I think he'd be an interesting interview, but who knows? He might end up just being our flat out OC guys. If we get Rolovich, this guy could still be in Moscow, but as the OC, the straight up OC and maybe assistant head coach. Who knows? That's pure speculation. I kind of alluded to that earlier. Interesting name.
All rolled.
Yeah. Well, hey, this is both for Alex and Chris. Let's pretend the whale Rolovich is off the table, but Stutzman's on the table. How do you feel, Alex? How do you feel, Chris?
Are we comparing all right, so we're assuming at this point Baldwin and Rolovich are both gone. So you're saying
no whales.
I take Ian Shoemaker or Craig Stutzman, basically. Do I'm going to take him Baldwin light or Rolovich light?
Sure.
Probably Shoemaker.
I would take Shoemaker. I would take Brent Pease, and I would take Mike Cox before I took Stutzman.
I'd probably go Shoemaker, Stutzman, Pease. But Pease and Stutzman are very 2A, 2B.
Let me say it different. Let's just pretend we don't hear finalists and Stutzman just hit a home run on the interview. He gets the job. So on December 7th, Chris, let's just pretend there's a press conference.
Happy.
Craig Stutzman introduced his head coach. How do you feel?
Smiling.
Okay.
All right.
December 7th, I'm okay with that. December 8th, I'm okay with that. If you get to double digits December, I'm going to be probably could have got Stutzman 3 weeks ago. He's not employed right now. That's the other big thing. That would be the big talking point. What were we doing?
I'm okay. I think I'd be okay with it, but yeah.
I think he's a guy who when we got into the season starting, if there were no distractions, people would give themselves permission to relax. and say, oh yeah, Power 5 coordinator fell into our lap, you got to be happy.
Yeah. All right.
I think we have more names before we get to the conversation we might have.
Yeah, we've got one more,
two more
name we talked about.
Two more.
So let's go to real quick. Let's hit up Raleigh Lambala. He former Vandal. We've heard possibly there's interest there. Possibly he's even applied. Recent player, so not a ton of coaching experience. Where do you guys kind of land on Raleigh?
If we miss on everyone else, like if we're going down the pack, if I had to like list my order of guys we've listed, right? I guess I would probably go like Shoemaker, Pease, Mike Cox, Reeder, Stutzman, then like Raleigh. Does that make sense, right? Like it'd be interesting. He played in the CFL for a long time. A lot of passion for the Vandal fans and the Vandal faithful. I love Raleigh. Like he was one of my favorite players to watch when I was a kid. That's just kind of a weird thing to say. But he made a career in the CFL for a long time, which is great. If he brought in the right people, right, to coach with him, I think that'd be a fantastic hire. Someone who's really enthusiastic and can connect with people, get boosters and get fans excited again. Yeah, I'd be okay with it.
I can say two things. One, our source that Raleigh Lambala has applied is about as good as the source could possibly be, and I'm going to leave it there. I know he's politicking. I absolutely know for a fact Raleigh's politicking for the job, which I
like
consider
Mike
positive.
Cox is.
Yeah, which I consider positive. That means he knows it's important to connect with people for this job. We need someone who's going to connect with boosters, so that's a point in Raleigh's direction. I'm going to say if we hear a press conference and he's announced the coach, I am terrified because he just doesn't have coaching experience.
Unless we heard names that were coming with him, right? Like unless we heard like so-and-so's OC and so-and-so's blah, 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 right?
Oh, there's a world where I could be relaxed. And I love Raleigh the guy. In my head, I hear him. I think I kind of hope Bo Baldwin picks up Raleigh and puts him on his staff. That's my response to that, to hearing his name right now. There's a world where I could be sold, but at this point, with no head coaching experience, when you look at other Big Sky hires, like, Troy Taylor, no head coach, but he was a successful OC everywhere. Jeff Choate, lots of experience. Brent Vegan, lots of great experience. Bobby Houck, one of the most successful Big Sky coaches ever. And then Idaho hires a guy with no coaching experience whatsoever at this point. I'd be pretty concerned. There'd be some work that has to be done to sell me on.
Yeah, my take on this is like, I think he'd put in the work. I just don't think he has the experience. Like, he is a guy that hopefully is one of those people that Golick, Green, Mooney, etc., that might be in these interviews. They are the guy, like, they're telling him, like, hey, there's this guy who applied for head coach. We don't think he's quite there yet, but, like, we think he would benefit your staff. And I think that's where he lands. I think he'd be somebody that'd be beneficial to Idaho. I think he'd bring a lot of energy to Idaho. I think he'd bring some of that youth to Idaho. He understands kind of like we're not FBS anymore. A lot of our future, like, selling of pro prospects is going to be like the David Unger route and getting guys into the CFL, which you see Eastern do quite, well. He's a guy who opens up that, area for you and those connections to the CFL. Like, you'd be a good add to a staff, but I agree. I'm not quite there on the full-blown head coach job. Thomas Ford, guy who talk about a guy who's interested, liked and retweet a tweet we posted just. All right, so we'll go over the how this all came to be. We have heard that there are 2 private flights that occurred this weekend that landed in the Moscow
flight tracker season.
It's flight tracking season. One was originated from NetJets via Las Vegas. The other one was originated via Seattle. So we're looking, who are the coaching prospects in Seattle and Vegas? Now, I will go full blower and say, first time this popped up, I thought Vegas was the more promising one. And everybody, I think, basically held in bated breath, like, oh, shit, it's Tom Cable.
Please.
No. Please, no. Please.
With Nick Holt as the DC and Mike Cox as the linebacker coach.
I got No. Not like, honest to Pete's sake, hire Paul Petrino.
And Raleigh Lambala's coaching running backs. Got it.
Anywho, I don't think it was anything to do with the Vegas connection. There's another guy who's on the screenshot. If you guys saw the screenshot, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name because I didn't try to memorize it, but it is a Samoan name or, Islander name. But he has some experience at Boise State. Also, I believe at Eastern and Weber. Rough pulling it off the top of my head. So we were thinking, okay, maybe it's these guys kind of reached out to a ball game. Like, hey, you cover Boise State now. Anybody good at UNLV that it's might worth looking at? Then it kind of came forward that, like, okay, well, the whole Washington staff is basically unemployed for all intents and purposes. Who's at Washington? And Thomas Ford was a name we had already been hearing. So we just posted a question on Twitter of, who from Seattle might be interested. And somebody posted Thomas Ford. Thomas Ford liked and retweeted it. Brian Marceau, since you might have to jump off here soon, what are your thoughts on Thomas Ford?
So he has head coaching experience now this might be touchy for some Vandals, former head coach of our hated rival, Simon Fraser. And currently, or most recently, quality control analyst for University of Washington offense. You're going to I'm concerned because he didn't have a great record at Simon Fraser, but also I think Simon Fraser structurally is just going to suck forever. So I don't know how much you actually hold that against him. Moving up to University of Washington chain, which is promising. I got to say, he's another guy he'd have to do some work to sell me. Certainly not anti, and certainly like any hire, we're going to, we're going to be happy about having a guy who's motivated to be at Idaho, for a potential turnaround. But of the guys we've talked about, I kind of put him pretty similar to Raleigh, or maybe just a little bit above Raleigh because there's more experience. It would feel like something else didn't work out. Now, if I hear Thomas Ford is on the staff of the next Idaho coach, I'm going to say home run.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a guy to bring a lot of energy. And I've heard from, Boatman will talk on this, I'm sure. A lot of former players really seem to like him. And he's most known for running a 7-on-7 camp in the Seattle area. So there's that added thing that he might benefit some recruiting in the Western Washington region.
Yeah, and also, I guess we can wrap this up quick so we can maybe get something in before Brian has to leave.
Yeah, before Brian leaves.
Yeah. Good recruiter probably, has good connections. I know he's trying to get on a staff somewhere, whether it's an assistant like in Eastern or maybe an Oregon. So I think this guy will end up on a staff. I'd be happy. Like, we could do worse probably. Coming under the radar hire that I think could end up weirdly being okay potentially. But I would maybe like to see him first as like an OC or OC recruiting coordinator type of level at Idaho. I'd be okay with that. Like, actually pretty okay with that. Or maybe like an OC, like a position coach recruiting coordinator. I'd be probably pretty happy with that. So I guess we can kind of move it on to our last segments here.
Yep. All right. Let's get into it. Brian, go ahead.
Just the thing I think it'd be worth going over really quick is we know that there's a lot of player support for every player we talked to all year that we've heard from has liked Luther Ellis. We have never heard anyone say anything negative about Luther Ellis.
I love Luther, like one of the best people I've ever met in my whole life.
So we're not saying Luther has a plaid, guys, but just a question, because there are players on the team who really like the guy. There's lots of Vandals who like the guy. What would be your take if you guys found out Luther Ellis was being considered for the position?
I would. So I love Luther. I actually think he'd be a good head coach, right? People always would ask if Paul was fired midseason, who would have taken over as head coach. I think Luther would have been a good shot for that. I think you get into a weird dynamic of, he's a part of the staff that was just fired, right? And he was not even a coordinator.
For Terry. Yeah.
And so it's a weird dynamic. I think Luther would be great. He's a good recruiter. He has that unique ability to command respect while players loving him. That's a rare thing to have for a coach, right? Like to fully just love him while also just you walk in a room, you pay attention and listen. Always a smile on his face, great energy. I think it'd be an interesting hire. I think I would take Luther over some of the people we've mentioned here tonight. Personally, I wouldn't take him over our whales or maybe the top of our we know his interested list, but I would take him over a lot of those people. I would have to say. I hope he's on staff. Like he was on the names that I mentioned. I hope stays on staff in some form, in some capacity. at Idaho. Like whether it's DC, whether it's D-line coach still, I would love to keep Luther. Like he's one of the people you have to keep around, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think, and then I'm gonna have to jump off, guys. I just think like Nick Weber just said, is it different than the Kloss hire if Luther goes to the search vetting? I think how the catastrophic failure of the Zach Kloss hire makes this just a non-starter. Doesn't mean Luther wouldn't be a great guy to have around. Doesn't mean we don't value his time. But like I got to say, of all the potential hires we could have, he wouldn't be my last for sure. There is some experience. There is some absolute value in what he's done with Idaho, also with his sons playing at Idaho. But he would be pretty far down on my list, which might not be fair relative to his actual ability and his actual potential. But if Terry dips down below, and look, to hire Zach Kloss, she dipped down for the number 3 assistant. If she dips down below coordinators to hire the football coach after doing that with Zach Kloss, I think there'll be a revolt amongst alums.
Which really sucks, because I think he actually is probably better than a lot of people who maybe.
I've yet to see anybody really hate the Luther idea.
Well, everyone
loves him.
I absolutely have. But that's why I say I don't think it's fair to what his actual ability might be. But I think there's just no way. Like this has to be a reset on the last 4 years. And if Luther's hired, then it clearly is not a reset. I mean, it's a reset, and it would be his team if he's hired. But for me, this might not be fair to Luther. I would be out on that right now. And speaking of out, I gotta sign out. I'm gonna listen to the rest of it. Talk to you guys later.
See you, Brian. All right, Bo. I'm on the Luther train. Like I said, not taking him over Rollo, not taking him over Baldwin, not taking him over Choate. Hell, I'll be straight up. I'll take him over Shoemaker.
Interesting. I don't know if I would. Head coaching experience, like I said, I think I would rather see Luther as a DC first. I think it's kind of a radioactive
central.
Yeah. I would put him in that Brent Pease level, right? Like I would be happy with, but I think Brian's right. I think it'd be kind of I love Luther. I think he'd be a great head coach. Honestly, I do. It'd be just an interesting dynamic. I don't know how people would feel about it. But from everything I've heard from boosters, from fans, from players, everyone loves him. And I mean, I players love him right now. We've heard that players want him to get that job. They just keep things on rolling. It'd be interesting to see what kind of staff he would assemble. He was never in charge, so he had to answer to his bosses. What would happen if he was the boss? We don't know.
So my big thing on why I'm okay with Luther, why I just want to get this point across. I know some people have heard it because they listen to us, and they just, are probably tired of me preaching this. But ladies and gentlemen, we've talked about the importance of hiring a defensive coach. I just want to reiterate this point because everybody loves the Shoemaker idea, the Bo Baldwin idea, the da-da-da-da-da. They love these freaking ideas. I did the research on this. From today back to 2010 when Eastern won, and I haven't gone past this yet. Can you tell me how many offensive coaches even made the FCS national title game? Brian or Bowman, what's your guess? So that'd be what? That's 11 years, 12 years, 11 years.
Maybe so that's
5. 22 teams.
Okay. 7.
Lower.
4.
Lower.
2.
Aaron Best and Bo Baldwin. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. You have Willie Fritz, who did it with frickin' Sam Houston State, defensive guy. Jacksonville State, defensive guy. Brock Spack at Illinois State, defensive guy. Bo Pelini at Youngstown State, defensive guy. Casey Keeler, defensive guy. Chris Kleiman, defensive guy. Matt Entz, defensive guy. Craig Bull, defensive guy. Mike Houston, defensive guy. I guess, people, are we here to win titles? I know we need to fill up the dome, but I think we all agree winning will fill up the freaking dome. I just think that people get too caught up in this, offenses are pretty. Offense, it's true. Offenses put butts in seats defenses win championships. That is still true today.
Nick
it is
Saban.
proven at every level of football.
Real quick, Chris. You look at the top 4 released today in the FBS College Football Playoff. That was released a couple hours ago. Kirby Smart, number 1, Georgia defense. Number 2, Jim Harbaugh. That's the exception there. Okay.
Yeah.
But his team is known for physical smash mouth football. He's a trenches right? Guy. Not spread. It's a trenches guy, right?
Yeah.
Number 3, Alabama, Nick Saban, defense. Number 4, Luke Fickell, defense. Pete Carroll is a defensive guy.
Bill
Belichick's a defensive guy. Like most of the greatest coaches of all time, I think Vince Lombardi was a defensive guy.
Yeah.
Most of the greatest coaches of all time. I'm not saying that offensive guys are bad, right?
No.
We've had a conversation about this.
Mind to be your OC because defensive guys, unlike offensive guys,
go get
metal.
Go get Bodie Reeder to be your OC again, right? Like he doesn't have. He's an OC. Go get Thomas Ford to be your OC.
Hell,
you know what I mean?
We're talking about Shoemaker being a head coach. Shoemaker is unemployed. I mean,
he doesn't have a job.
What the hell say he won't come to Idaho to be the OC? We can get
we pay our OC more. We pay our OCs more than Eastern does.
So, like, there's no way. Like, we could get Shoemaker and a defensive guy. We could hire Jeff Choate and get Shoemaker. We could hire. And I know, like, I've been preaching Rolovich. I'm saying right now, though I like the Rolovich hire, guys like Andy Thompson and Jeff Choate do get me more excited because I do like that defensive guys.
I wish
I've heard. So for the people who know, Andy Thompson, defensive coordinator, Sac State, played at Montana, defensive coordinator at NAU for a long time, still a young dude full of energy. We've like radio silence. I don't know if he's interested. I don't even know if he knows there's an opening. I think he is focused on the playoffs.
He's just a name that we identified as Tubbs of the Club search firm, LLC.
And good point. Mike Cox is a defensive guy. So, all right, Mike Cox moving up a little bit. But, yeah, you're right. I'll tell you this way. Would I rather take Mike Cox over some of the, like, retread offensive guys that have been thrown around? Hell yeah.
Yeah, I probably would too. I mean,
that's kind of my take is, like, when people are like, oh, I really want Shoe. I really want this. I really want that. Like, getting a guy like Brett Pease, offensive guy. Sorry. Like, a guy like Jeff Choate, a guy like Andy, a guy like, who the hell were we just talking about that brought up this whole thing? Luther. Like, guys, defense and defensive coaches win championships.
I think they have the ability better to offensive guys really.
They're better brands.
Offensive
Mike
guys
Leach won a ton of championships, guys. Tons. I'm a Coug.
Did my audio just change? By the way, we're producing live. Did my audio just change a little bit? Okay.
I didn't catch it. Anyway,
so we'll move on from between. But no, I think defensive guys. I think defensive guys make. The reason I like defensive guys or special teams guys is I think they have the ability to step back and appreciate the bigger picture of what's happening in a game. Right. Versus offensive guys, as we've seen the last few years, can get caught up in their own play calling and not going, what's the best for the situation in the game, right? What's best for time management? Where are we going? I want someone who can delegate and lead as a leader and be a CEO. And I think sometimes defensive guys have the propensity to do that better. And I don't know why that is, because I think it's they react versus they don't control the pace of the game. They react. They let their offensive, they go whatever the offense is doing. So you hire a good defensive guy to be a CEO, hire a good OC, a D guy can go put his hand in all the pots, let the OC take care of that. And you go, all right, sorry, we're punting. Like, that's what we're doing. They go, shit, all right, I guess we have to because you're the guy, right? Versus like, screw that, we're going for it, right? Like, we've seen that happen the last few years. We've seen what happened when you're as a head coach who calls your own plays. Sometimes you can kind of lose sight of the bigger picture of a game. And we've seen it lose us some games probably. Honestly, like maybe like versus Eastern on the red in 2020 or 2021 up there in the spring, right? Like times we should have gone for it and didn't because maybe we were not paying attention to the right stuff. That's just my thought on that. I know it's long-winded, but it is what it is.
All right. I don't want to get this much longer. That's basically all the cans we had. I think we're pro Luther. I know that, and it's not necessarily Brian is pro defense. Brian he is worried, not even worried of the optics. The fact that both of Terry's big hires would have been from previous fired staff, so we don't know where we're going with volleyball yet. So it could be all three of her hires. It's just not a good look outwardly. I think you fix that if they win. That's just something Kloss hasn't done. Like, I'm
and we're not even saying that
Kloss against Luther.
And we're not even saying that Luther has applied, or we're just saying we just have heard a lot of people go like, well, what about
players
Luther?
really like him?
A lot of people have asked us, what about Luther? What about Luther? Players, we know players like him. We know former players like him. Go, would Luther want it? That's just kind of the conversation we wanted to bring that up. So,
but
who
we've
knows?
been downplaying Luther wanting it, and we will say we've heard a little bit more. We've seen more smoke. We still haven't determined if there's fire. That's a great way to put it. Like, before we thought there was like a little bit of like maybe it was steam. There's some smoke there now, but we haven't seen any legitimate fire to that. All right.
And we heard at some point he might not want it, so it's tough to go back and forth.
We just touched on it. All right, so one of our better listeners, but he's a Grizz fan. Manchester United FC in Mile High. A deep dive.
No, MCFC. He's a City fan. All right. Anyway, sorry.
I just love that he even is on the deep dive thing. A deep dive on Saban and Belichick. BB, Bill Belichick, would bring some energy back to Moscow and would love a Tubbs take on this. I think we touched on it. We love defensive guys. And like I said, if this hires January 17th, you're looking at my top two names right there. It's Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. That's all I have to say about that.
That's all that you co-signed. All right.
Black Sparty Pants, Bo Baldwin. We've touched on Bo a lot. Scott Linehan. Is he really interested in the job? Would he leave Missouri to come home to Idaho? Is he the front runner, or at least the true front runner with Vandal ties? Tom Kendall asked this. I also saw him. This was on Twitter. He's been going live with us in the chat today. For those of you that watch on YouTube, for those of you that are listening, now you know. Talking about the Idaho ties. So let's touch the Idaho ties as a whole here, other than obviously Raleigh. Scott Linehan, Doug Nussmeier, Brian Lindgren, Casey Dunn, and we already kind of touched Joel Thomas, so we'll leave
Mike
Joel
Cox.
after this. And Mike Cox, but like the four guys we really haven't talked about. From what we've been told, Scott had the most weight. The other three seem like very not interested. I think Lindgren just saw with the Jonathan Smith raise. He's probably getting a raise. I think Casey Dunn realizes they're fighting for a possible odd playoff spot, depending on things break.
They might win a national title. Like they could, if they win their game, they're in probably. So they're probably playing for a national title coming up, maybe.
Yeah. So like, would we love them? Absolutely. They'd be the biggest two whales. I would take either of them over Bo Baldwin right now, but I don't think it's happening. I think they're not an OC. Like we talk about Troy Taylor, and like when I talk about pay cuts and getting a Pac-12 OC, Utah wasn't advancing. Utah wasn't bad. They weren't good. Kyle Whittingham wasn't going anywhere, so none of those jobs were become available. I think Troy Taylor just saw, what do I do here? I think Bo Baldwin saw the same thing when he left Cal. It's like they felt trapped. I don't think Lindgren and Dunn feel trapped in their current positions. I think Scott Linehan would love to be a head coach, but I think he's really trying to make a push back to the NFL.
I don't think there's any waves to Lindgren or Dunn as of today, right? That being said, Linehan was the one that had the most weight. That was a maybe. And like I said earlier, and I think we all kind of agreed, if Scott Linehan wanted this job, he would have this job. We would not be talking about not having a head coach right now, in my opinion, because he's an analyst at Mizzou, right? He's an analyst, so he can kind of leave when he wants. Doesn't have to worry. Like you don't have, even though they're going to a bowl game, like who cares? I remember his name was thrown around for the OC job at the Jags when Urban Meyer got hired, and someone was mentioned earlier, NFL pensions. He's really close to his NFL pension. It just kind of depends on if he wants to come back and be, have that scrutiny on him. Maybe he doesn't want to be a head coach. Maybe he just is fine being an OC or being a quarterback coach or an analyst and just collecting his paycheck from Jerry Jones still, because he's probably still getting paid from that, right? So I don't think – I think at one point there was smoke. I don't think there's much smoke left at all anymore. Now people are going to ask, well, what about Matt? What about Mike, his two kids who have played at Idaho? I think there's maybe more smoke to Matt because any one of these current head coaches, right, could easily pull Matt back as a quarterback coach. That's not – Matt's a GA at Mizzou right now. He was a GA at San Diego State last year, where Mike is still a GA, a linebacker GA. Like, that's not an unreasonable step to go from a GA to a quarterback coach at an FCS program. So, I mean, I think that is more likely is to see Matt back in Moscow. That's just pure speculation. I don't know Jack on that. I don't really talk to Matt a whole lot. But I think that at this point, if I had to say what's more likely between Matt or Scott being in Moscow, it's Matt, because you just never know if someone wants to give him a job, and why you turn down your first job and back in a place you lived for 5 years, right, or 4 years. So
yep,
that'd be tough.
All right, and then one more. Well, we got one more that's basically on coaches. Jason McIndoe. This is from Tanner Gooch. O-line coach at Wazoo. He was an offensive lineman center at Washington State. Played 3 years in the NFL. Coached at Montana State for 12 years. Has been under Casey Dunn. Well, not under, but working with Casey Dunn for the last 7 at Oklahoma State, coaching tight ends and what they call cowboy backs, so fullbacks. What's Jason McIndoe do? This is a guy we haven't heard any rumors of. This is just strictly we asked you guys.
Someone asked. Talk about. Yeah. It'd be interesting.
I think he'd be a sneaky good hire. I'd take him over a couple of the guys we've listed today, maybe. I mean, he's 46, so he's still young. He's like that Jeff Choate age. He just hasn't bounced around a ton. Originally from California, did play in the Palouse, did play for the Seahawks. Started actually at Mount Spokane and Lake Washington coaching, so Seattle and Spokane for high school. I mean, 11 years in the Big Sky under Rob Ash, who Montana State fans will bash, but they forget that he had them as a top 5 team perennially. So
they weren't Jack without Rob Ash before that.
Yeah. Actually, they've been more successful with Rob Ash than they are with any other coaches since. But don't tell Montana State fans that.
Yeah, they hate. Anyway, I think it'd be an okay hire.
Rob Ash
with that. Like, actually, he wanted this job in 2013.
I know. I did hear that. We turned him down.
Yeah, we turned him down in 2013. And Montana State fans will be happy
for PP.
Yeah. But anyway, back to McIndoe. It'd be interesting. Played at Wazoo, knows the Palouse. Coached in Lake Washington High, coached at Mount Spokane, then, Montana State for 11, 12 seasons. Been under Mike Gundy and Casey Dunn for quite a few years. He's also a guy that, people go, oh, he's about to be in the national title hunt. Well, he's a position coach. Those guys leave for jobs when they get them. They don't stay, right? It'd be an interesting hire. I'd be okay with it if I did some more digging and maybe heard some things. I don't know if you have any more Ask Tubbs questions, Chris.
Questions, not coaches.
We
won't be touching.
I will say, right, like when it comes to these hires, there's a lot more that goes into it than just these resumes. Like Bo Baldwin can interview for this job and have a shit interview. Like that is possible because like guys who are prepared will come in with plans, recruiting plans. They're detailed how they see this program going. Like that's a good interview. Like someone like Bodie Reeder could come out of nowhere with a fantastic interview. Right. Raleigh, Thomas Ford could be well prepared.
They need the prep.
Yes. Versus maybe someone like Bo Baldwin can go, my resume speaks for itself. And not saying that's what Bo Baldwin does at all. I'm not saying that happens.
Terry's from Wisconsin. She's like, I don't effing know what. Like I've just seen you at Cal Poly.
But you never know. Who is going to come in there and just murder an interview that does happen. I think today, like Virginia Tech hired Penn State's DC. People are going, who the hell is that? Why did that happen? And on surface level, it's not a flashy name, right? They were in the running for Dave Clawson from Wake Forest. They were in the running for Billy Napier at one point, who went to Florida instead. There are some Hugh Freeze was mentioned to Virginia Tech at one point. Flashy names. Said this guy from Penn State was identified by the search firm. They did their research on him. They checked references. They did all that stuff. He probably had a killer interview with great plans. And that's what does it, folks. Like we will not be in those rooms to tell you who interviews well. Right? We don't know. Like Mike Cox could be planning this interview for like the last year and a half, and he could just kill it. We don't know. All we know is what we've seen them do in previous jobs, which is all we can go off of. We don't know what they're going to give an answer to people like Scott Green, to people like Terry in an interview process.
All right. And then real quick, Justin and Bertram, forget coaches. What offensive and defensive schemes do you want to see brought to Moscow? Defense. I mean, I think we've been recruiting at the 3-4. I think our defense hasn't been an issue other than secondary. So I'm totally okay staying in the 3-4. I'm more of a 4-3 guy myself. But I do think the way our secondary's been playing, maybe a 4-2-5 wouldn't be the end of the world, especially now that we're thinned out a bit at linebacker. But I'm be honest, I'm going to let the new guys come in, play with the transfer portal, put their own stamp on it. Offensive-wise, as long as it's not the triple option, man, I'm okay with it.
What version of the triple option? What version of the triple option?
I'll take Georgia Southern's triple option.
Okay, Coastal runs a version of it, right? Georgia Southern does too. You're saying you don't want academy.
I want the spread triple option. If we do the modern spread triple option,
out of pistol with jet motions and things like that, that's a lot different than you don't want academy.
I still would prefer.
No one runs academy triple option anymore unless you have ties to those schools.
You want my pick, dude? Run and shoot, and that's not even just me plugging Rolovich. That's a system that equally is basically, whether people admit it or not, a 50-50 run scheme, pass game. Like,
it is.
It just gives off the impression of high pass numbers because it's that same concepts of an air raid system.
It's more vertical,
but it's still
than air
grounded on the run base.
It's more vertical. It's more vertical.
The air raid's
a lot of
duck. Run and shoot is like, you're going to get more chunk plays, which is something I don't get out of one. So I guess that's my pick. Dream situation. I'll take a run and shoot. And then a 4-3, but I think Idaho maybe needs to stay at a 3-4, shift to a 4-2-5.
So tight ends and fullbacks don't exist in the run and shoot. Just let you know. They
transferred out.
They run 10 personnel. When I say 10 personnel, that means 1 running back, 0 tight ends. Right, the first identifier in any personnel is a running back. Second's a tight end. Run and shoot runs exclusively 10 personnel or doubles or just complete 5 wide. Right, or 0 personnel. That's what they run. That's exclusively their run and shoot. Sometimes you might see them in a 20 personnel, maybe with 2 backs, but it's out of shotgun the whole time. You're never under center. I just want whatever system. I hope you get a coach who can adapt what we currently have in personnel, bring in his own. I just don't want someone to be like, this is my system. It's my way or the highway. Get the hell out. Right. I don't want that. I want someone who can grow and adapt. And I think I'm doing this right now with Manchester United, Chris, right? Like soccer, there's a lot of different styles and systems, right?
Hey, you and me both.
And we just started to employ a higher pressing system, which is something we don't do. But that's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time to build that into fruition. And even people go, well, football's a lot you have offseason to prepare. Still, you only get 15 spring practices. You only get about 3 weeks of fall camp. That's all you get in pads, folks. That's it. To implement a system. So I would be okay with a run and shoot if it was determined we have the right personnel for it. I'm not sure.
We got a lot of wide receivers right now. Might even keep.
And we have a lot of running backs. I think
might
even
going some of these quarterbacks. We have some decent quarterbacks right now that are probably waiting right now on bated breath to see who we bring in. I'll tell you what, we bring in the triple option, even if it's the Georgia Southern one. Man, I think CJ and Giovanni McCoy could run that pretty well. I don't know if CJ and Giovanni McCoy want to run that off.
Zach Boris season.
Dude, Boris would be
Boris
would be walking in day one. Hey, coach, I'm your guy. Don't even look outside.
I think I would rather turn back actually to what Petrino's offense was.
I don't think it's bad. Pro set single
with
back
Matt. Matt. When we had Matt at quarterback, we ran a lot of 11 and 12 personnel, but more under center with a lot of motions. We kind of went away from that a little bit when we went to Mason, offense. Right?
West Coast.
So, go back to the West Coast. Give me the West Coast. But anyway, I mean, that's.
Let's get to our last question and get out.
Here nor there. Yeah.
Last question, and then we'll let you guys all off the hook. Although we got 13 listeners, so I mean, I guess people want to listen, but we don't want to keep talking. Connor Lindstrom. How many years does the new coach get to turn around the program? Are winning seasons enough, or is it playoff or bust, Alex?
I think, it's going to go year by year. If you go look at our schedule next year, sure, we're losing guys to transfer portal. Sure, we lost guys to graduation. We have a good chance to push 6 D1 wins next year, Chris. I think that six should be the goal, right? 7's a stretch goal. If you're a company, you say, our goal's 6. It's a tough goal to meet, but I think we could do it. I think that's possible. Turn your definition of turnaround, they're going to get a couple years. They're going to get some time to get their recruits in. Most places, I will say, folks, give coaches 3 to 4 years to put their stamp on the program. It's kind of like Your first 2 years could be throwaway years. Not throwaway, but discount a little bit.
Culture building, yeah.
Year 3, you hope to see some year 3, especially if the program's completely toast, which ours isn't. I would say year 1, you could go, okay, we could be a little here nor there. Year 2, you want to see some growth. Year 3, you would expect to see a lot more growth and a lot more change at that point. I would say 3 years before I would kind of go, Some will usually give 4 before they start questioning hires. I would give us year 3 but next year, look at our schedule, folks. I mean, Drake, NAU, Northern Colorado, Idaho State has a new coach. Portland State, who knows what they're going to be. Eastern is not the same Eastern next year, folks. Like they are,
or in the dome. They haven't won in the dome since 2012.
Not the same. They are losing so many pieces. They reload, but like
Davis in the dome.
Davis, who knows? Like they aren't as maybe good. Like there's some winnable
literally
games.
After Montana, we could 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We could go on a 6-game win streak,
or we could lose half of those. Like that's like what this. I mean, who
True.
knows, right? So like, but there's winnable games there from
These
what
are
we've
both
seen.
winnable.
Our first
I
3
think
games
Colorado,
after
Arizona.
our money games are winnable games. Like those are
us going into Montana in Wagriz. We have a bye week before it. We should be 3-2.
good shot. To
We
be
should
3-2.
lose to Wazoo. We should lose to Indiana. Beat Drake. Beat NAU. Beat Northern Colorado. We should be 3-2 with 3 FCS wins. Bye week. Going into Wagriz.
Then probably Portland State for homecoming the week
And
after
you know
that.
what? We probably don't beat Montana in Montana. We'll get to that when we get there. Beat Portland State. Beat Sac State will be difficult. But then beat Eastern at home. Beat UC Davis at home. And then beat Idaho State for the 3rd straight year in Pocatello. Third straight year playing in Pocatello.
That's 7-4, right? So I think that is playoffs.
Give ourselves a choke game
because you're at 7 D1 wins, right?
Yep.
But I think 6 is a definite goal for this team
number.
next year. Well,
5 would be an improvement.
5's an improvement, right? So I expect to see some growth and turnaround year 1. But I give 3 years. My final answer is 3 years for this person to definitely see like Idaho is pushing to be like a UC Davis or Sac State. Like that's my answer.
Idaho's not in a position like a Sac State, I think, where we can do the Troy Taylor route.
No.
And we're so bad we can fully commit to somebody for 7 years and just back. Worst case scenario, we lose one of our 8 donors. So we're not going to be able to sign Sac State or Troy Taylor to huge money in a 7-year contract. This should be a 4-year contract.
Probably a 5. It'll probably be a 5-year contract. Most of these end up being 5.
Idaho fans are going to have to get used to the fact that we might not win right away. Now, I'm not going to say I was lying. I think we just touched on it. A lot of people know I very famously have been plugging away for last 2 years that 2021 was going to be the year that we saw the Vandals turn around. Now, the 2020 schedule got pushed to 2021. I was talking specifically that schedule we just went over with you guys. That's the most advantageous schedule we've had since probably year 1 in the Big Sky.
Yes.
So we're set up to do well in that. We'll have CJ Jordan as a sophomore. We'll have CJ McCoy or Giovanni McCoy as a freshman. We've got a freshman coming in from Scottsdale. We've got Austin Webb, who's a gracier.
Boris is still around.
Boris is still going to be around, pending how the coaching decision goes. But we think we're going to hit a freaking home run here, and they're all going to want to stay. Like, this schedule is set up to see improvement. Now, 2023, everyone just got to be ready to take a step back and maybe get a check of reality, because I think we could be one of those teams that gets the benefit of our schedule next year and probably outplays what our record is.
Sac State.
Which we'll take.
Like Sac State this year, right? Like 9-2 Sac State is not probably –
yeah,
it's probably not 9-2, right? Like if Sac State had to play Eastern, had to play Montana State, and had to play Weber, any 2 more of those teams, they're probably 7-4, not 9-2, and winning the conference. And Eastern and Montana fans love to complain about that right now. Like they love to be like, well, Sac State's played nobody. It's like, well, sorry, that's what happens when you play in a 13-team conference. It's gonna happen. Like it is gonna happen. I mean, yeah. And we catch Eastern next year, Chris. Like
in the dome where we haven't
at
lost one as an FCS team.
At the best time that we could have caught them. Like we catch them at home. Like they're going to be okay.
Or Baldwin, somebody with a little salt in the wound, as it were.
They're gonna be okay, but they lose, their best running back, their best receiver.
Yep, Merritt's gone.
They're 2 of their best linebackers, their best DB. Limu Jones is gone, and their best player the man who makes it all tick, Eric Berry, has gone not saying this is it, but Eastern fans openly admit it to us, like they're ready for a tougher year next year. They're expecting regression. So damn it, let's go win that game.
I'll just say, here's my take I was getting on, then we'll get out of here. Most coaches, you see the biggest change of what they're probably going to be in year 3. I said that last week, and I'll stay with that. And we saw it. Yes, Rob Akey won the bowl game in year 3, but that was when everything came to fruition, right? Paul Petrino only won 4 games in year 3, and then year
massive
4
improvement,
won
though.
9. But I think we see what was a Paul Petrino team. It was a 4-win team. He won 4 wins in 5 seasons or 5 years of 4 wins. Year 3, I think, is where you get to kind of see who your coach and that program is going to be. So I would say 4 or 5-year contract is a must. I think Vandal fans are going to get a very exciting 2021 where we'll probably be very overinflated, and I plan on pumping people down in 2023. That 2022 is probably going to get a lot of people excited regardless of who we hire. Paul Petrino probably would have a 6 to 7 win team next year.
Yes.
Probably why he was hoping he could survive. But
probably 5 wins, but we probably would have tapped out.
We just touched on it, 4 to 5. That's his.
We probably would have tapped out at 5 wins. But I mean, there's a chance.
And then 2023, expect a bit of a drop off, and then 2024, that's the year. That's like what we do in 2024 is what you should expect from this new coach. And if it's year 3, 2024, year 3, if he sucks, you only have 1 more year of the contract, and you get a look elsewhere. If he's doing good, you extend, and you don't extend 5 or 6 freaking years. You do a 3 or another 4-year contract. We can't have another Akey or Paul Petrino where we sign them to these unrealistic contracts because we're fearful of losing them. You
don't want to be Mark Stoops. Do you see Kentucky? Do you see what he did? Do you see that contract? Mark Stoops of Kentucky, folks, got an extension to 2027. Automatic 1-year kicker if he wins 7 games. To add on, if he wins 10 games, he gets an additional 2 years. And they're playing for their 10th win of their bowl game. So it's going to be an automatic kicker to 2029 if they win their bowl game already. Like, that's a lifetime contract for being average. But I guess if you're Kentucky, like, that's the SEC. What else can you ask for besides going to a bowl game?
Yeah, I guess if you're Kentucky, you're happy with 7 to 10.
But wins. that's a funny. I mean, 2024, Chris. Also, we don't see Montana.
Yeah, that's for sure. We were expecting that. Maybe that's the year we get 12 games again. That's probably gonna be our OOC, but we'll see.
I've checked; they've already used all 4, but
they have, but we haven't.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens on our 12. But anyway, So, I mean, we get no Montana in 2024. That's when they get off our schedule. So anyway, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, next year is an advantageous time for a new coach and a lot of excitement to win 6 or 7 D1 wins, which this team has not. Folks, since 2000, D1 wins 6 or more in a season. Idaho has done that 3 times. Actually, 3 times. Okay?
No.
2010, 2009, 2010. We won 6 and 7 that year.
Are you not 98? Did I miss that?
I said since 2000. Since 2000.
Okay. Yeah.
And then 16.
Okay.
So be fired up for 6 D1 wins, folks. That's we haven't done that 3 times in 21 years.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was Around the Bar brought to you by Hughes River Expedition. If you're looking for a great all-inclusive week-long vacation, don't look past your backyard. Venture in the largest protected wilderness in the continental United States, located right here in the great state of Idaho. Enjoy a multi-day trip down the Middle Fork of the Salmon, the main Salmon River of no return, the Salmon River Canyons, the Selway, or even check out special trips like going to see the Perseid meteor shower, camp on pristine beaches, run amazing whitewater, hike scenic trails, spot wildlife, and soak in beautiful natural hot springs all along the river, and fish some of the most remote stretches of river in the country. Bring your clothes and let HRE handle the rest. Hughes River Expedition has been Vandal owned and operated since 1976 and ready to take you on the vacation of a lifetime. What are you waiting for? Find out what it's like to grab paddle, catch dinner, and ride the bull all throughout the Gem State. Call them now at 800-262-1882. Check them out at HughesRiver.com. All right, that's it. Let's get out of here. Next week, everything will be turned upside down again, and we'll be talking all about a whole new litter of coaches. But guys, keep them sending. We'll keep talking about them. Like I said, we posted an article today that's already outdated because, like, literally between the time that got posted and we went pregame, some of you noticed that we went long. Like, news is flooding in all the time, which is, I know people are frustrated. We're all frustrated, but it's a good thing to see that we're still getting news, like, there's wheels are turning. But
there wasn't this much news like yesterday and today. Like a lot of this
today
news
was a big day.
Today was a big day. Some of the news that, on people that we listed today, we literally got we talked pre-show and that's when we had it. That's when it was done.
Went long. Yeah.
And so, it's coming in. I mean, again, a lot of these are not very, not 100% confirmed, right? Like when Brian,
nothing we have is 100%.
Like what Brian, sourced on Petrino and let go, that was 100%.
Let's put it this way. The stuff that made us really lean into the Petrino thing, it's kind of like what we've all said. We've all had speculations he was gone. The rumors we started hearing that held water that we decided to look into more, that hold water thing is where we're at with these coaches searches. Like, we have some real contacts that are holding water with some of these. We need to start leaning in and doing our research and figuring out if they are indeed water holders, or if it's just, like a pond or something. But I don't know if that analogy plays, but that's what I'm rolling with. We have gotten,
and we'll see what happens.
We plan on learning more, and we will be back next week, same time, same place, so you guys can hear all about it. Maybe with some basketball, and hopefully with some transfer portal. But hey, coaching searches are exciting, and hopefully it's the last one we have to do for 10, 15 years. That'd be pretty cool. But all right, that's it. Time for the best bit. Now I keep doing that. It's time for Colby a Cuff to play us out with the Moscow drinking team song. Go Vandals.
Hey, go Vandals, guys.
So raise your glass and have a drink with me. Here's to the Vandals in the crowd. All just out there living the dream. Right up one and only Moscow drinking